Australia Overnight, Dr. Karl's back, so it's time to dive into the mind of Dr. Karl and the wonderful world of science as he joins us on Australia Overnight. Hello there, Karl Kruszelnicki. Welcome back.
Oh, hi there, Dr. Pat. It was amazing. Like, I was in Sicily and in France, and I discovered a new food called pistachio cream. Have you run across that?
I reckon I had somebody mention this to me recently. Pistachio cream. Is it like Nutella? Is it sweet?
You can add things to make it sweet. Yeah. So previously, my knowledge of pistachios was that you'd go to a party, there'd be a bowl of these things inside shells. They'd be about, a centimetre across. You'd peel off the shells and then you're left with something salty. You'd stick it in your mouth and chew on it, and because of the salt, it was delicious. Yes. And it was sort of vaguely greenish on the inside. Yes. And you keep on going and then your mouth got really salty and you'd stop. And I had no idea that you could turn it into a cream. And so in Sicily, I had this pistachio cream in a croissant, and oh my God, like heaven on a stick. I'd never had such a thing. I didn't know it existed.
Oh, we're going to find it. That sounds wonderful. Pistachio cream in a croissant. I wonder if it's at Aldi somewhere in one of the aisles there. Yeah, it sounds nice, very nice.
Yeah, and the other thing I discovered in Sicily is that it's only 145 kilometres away from Africa. I thought, wow, I thought it was a long way away. And Archimedes, the guy who ran through the streets after working out water flowing out of a bathtub and working out how to tell if the king's crown was made of gold or base metals, Archimedes was a Sicilian, not a Greek.
Is that right? Archimedes was a Sicilian, and also Africa's not too far away. There you are.
And also in Sicily, we were in Catania, the second biggest city, and there was this sort of slightly buried thing, and we went and had a look at it. It turned out to be the remnants of a building that was almost as big as the Colosseum. It could hold 16,000 people, and it had been sort of buried underground for various reasons for about 600 years. And we also discovered that the road rules are not so much rules, but rather aspirational goals or gentle suggestions.
Yes.
So there was a guy who saw a coffee shop and he just stopped his car in the road. Yeah. And his van in the car went to have a cup of coffee, and nobody beeped the horn at him and say, get off the road. They just sort of flowed around him like water. And at one stage, we were keeping up with the traffic doing twice the speed limit, and we were overtaken by somebody doing 3 times the speed limit.
I think in Sicily, is it because of a bit of that's the Mafia song, me doing the Mafia song. If everybody's nervous about, if you park your car, people just drive around there because they don't want to challenge the person who's done that. Or is it just me being a bit... I shouldn't say that, should I? My background's Italian, Dr. Karl. I'm an Italian, so I should go and check it all out. That's why I can say that tongue-in-cheek.
Sicily's been invaded by all sorts of people. The French, the Normans, the Africans, the Carthaginians, the Romans, the Phoenicians, the Greeks. Everybody's had a go at invading it, and it's just been surviving. In fact, one of the capital city of Sicily, Palermo, was one of the major cultural capitals of Europe in the 12th and 13th centuries, because at that time Europe had sort of fallen over. And we had the Dark Ages happening and the loss of knowledge, but the Arab countries had kept the flame of knowledge alive, and so they all met in Sicily, sort of like a convenient meeting point.
Wonderful. I love it. Yeah, that's right. Travel's all about that. You go to places, you learn about the history and the people, and you've obviously soaked it all up. It's just wonderful. I'll have to get there very, very soon. Now, cancer cells are just your own cells going bad, Dr. Karl, and you're going to tell us about these cancer cells and how they steal mitochondria from the nerve cells. Tell us more.
Well, yeah, so firstly, mitochondria make energy, and let me explain. So in our society, if you want to catch a bus or buy a cup of coffee, you've got to spend money. But in the body, if you want anything to happen, like a muscle to contract, a nerve to send information from here to there, the kidney to filter blood, if you want anything to happen, you've got to spend ATP, adenosine triphosphate, and turn it into adenosine diphosphate. There's 3 phosphates on the triphosphate, and you knock one of them off and you get a huge amount of energy released. It turns into a diphosphate, and then it gets turned back into a triphosphate by mitochondria. So mitochondria are the little factories, biological factories inside your cells that make energy. And now that's a bit of background.
Yes.
So cancer cells are, as you said, just your own cells gone bad, which is why it's hard for your body to recognize them as being evil, because it's just you. They're only a little bit different. And they multiply, usually they multiply and grow very, very rapidly, and they need a lot of energy to do this. And where do you get the energy from? From mitochondria. And we've known for a while that cancer cells do something to nearby nerve cells to fuel their growth. And if you've got a person with cancer and you give them drugs that depress their nerve function, that does for a short time suppress the growth of the cancer, but this is not a long-term solution because you need your nerves to function. Yes. You can't run without functioning nerves. And by the way, there's this whole new field called cancer neuroscience. And so if you've got a cancer growing somewhere, normal cells will make little tubes and transfer the mitochondria that make the energy to the other cells, and they'll give them the mitochondria. And we've discovered that cancer cells do this by stealing, they fund their massive growth by stealing mitochondria from nerve cells. They extrude what's like an ultra-thin drinking straw, and they just stab the nearest nerve cell, and they just suck the mitochondria out. So the nerve cell function goes down a little bit, but the function of the cancer cell goes up like crazy. And so that's where they get their huge energy. And we've also discovered that suppose you've got a primary cancer like breast cancer, which happens to 1 in 8 women, and it will kill 1 in 40 women. With breast cancer, you've got the primary has got relatively low levels of stolen mitochondria, but the secondaries, like in the brain and the lungs and the liver, which end up, they're scattered around the body, the secondaries got a much higher percentage. And now that we know this, we might be able to use this as a way to stop cancer cells from growing so quickly, stop them from getting the mitochondria, the little biological factories that make energy for them.
Sounds pretty significant as you describe it like that. Yeah, now that we've discovered this, we could, look, I don't know, you tell me, look, any discovery about how the cells work is a good thing, but this seems like quite a significant one to work out where it's getting its energy from. And when you say the secondary ones versus the main ones, that's pretty good to know.
We're just learning so much about it. And the beauty of pure research is that it pays off. The bad thing is it doesn't pay off in the first week. Sometimes you have to wait years, but the payoffs are much bigger. For each dollar you put in, you get $5 back. Yep.
Just like life, things take time. Well, that is life, isn't it? You sort of put things in and it just, the seed gets into the soil and it starts to grow. Australia Overnight, Dr. Karl is here, our science guru on the program. When you think harder, you use more of your brain, body energy. There you are. Tell us about the brain and what happens when we start to think very hard there, Dr. Karl.
Well, the energy is, as I said before, this ATP stuff, adenosine triphosphate. And your brain weighs only 2% of your body weight. But when you're sitting around doing nothing, even though it weighs only 2% of your body weight, it uses 20% of your body's energy. Now, thinking about doing nothing, we discovered in the year 2001 that there's a weird part of your brain called the default network, and it seems to be very busy when you're doing nothing. So it's a collection of unrelated parts of the brain that seem to be working together, helping you do nothing. So suppose you go and look at a view, you think, oh, that's an interesting view, and look, there's a lion over there, and there's a giraffe there, and there's a kangaroo there, and there's a UFO, and you're sort of concentrating, and then you just sort of get a little bit bored, and you just sort of go off into a daze. In that case, suddenly this so-called default network starts getting really busy, and that's using up the 20% of your energy in your whole body. And when you start thinking on a problem like, if Pat is taller than Michael, but Lucy is shorter than Annette, then what colour shoes is Fred wearing? And the answer is red, of course. When you're trying to solve a difficult problem, the amount of energy you burn only goes up by about a quarter. It goes from 20% to 25%. But the real kings of brain energy use are the infants and the babies. Their brains use up 50% of their energy.
They're learning lots and soaking up information. Is that why? Yeah.
But also, besides learning, they're also breaking synapses. So on one hand, they're making new synapses and they're learning how, that if you turn this tap, water will come out, and they're learning that. But also, they're throwing away old information and destroying old synapses, and they're doing both at the same time, but in general, they're growing slightly more than they're getting rid of. And that can take up to 50% of their energy. And when you look at an infant crawling across the floor, and it's so funny because in most cases, they discover reverse gear before they discover forward gear. So they end up under the furniture going, "Get me out of here," bleeding pitifully at you. Yeah. And so when they then start to learn how to stand, they're burning up energy like crazy. Yeah, right. They are working their muscles to exhaustion. So they go stand, sit, stand, sit. They're going up, down, up, down, up, down. And then suddenly they just collapse. And they've done what you used to do in the old days when you went to the gym and you'd work your muscles to exhaustion, but they're doing it all day, every day. In fact, just as an aside here, I'm thinking of inventing a new fake extract money from people gym program called Baby Aerobics, where you try to copy a baby or an infant doing something, going from here to there and stopping, then bending down and jumping and doing all sorts of stuff. No, I'm not inventing baby aerobics.
Okay, you've got a few other things on the go before baby aerobics.
So infants can use 50% of their entire energy just on running their brain.
And this is why you get home exhausted after, if you've got a big day, you've made lots of decisions, and sometimes talkback radio hosts, I tend to keep going, but as maybe taking talkback for 6 hours, you go home and you just sit there on the couch for a bit in a daze. The mind has been, chewing up all that energy. So there's that. So two-pronged. And also, have you heard about this thing where some corporate people or high-powered, who did it? Who did I hear do it? Maybe the guy who invented Apple, whatever his name was, would wear the same clothes every day. So those small decisions as to what to wear, that routine meant that he left brain power, he or she leaves brain power for the other decisions. You just do a routine, wear the same thing every day. Maybe even Barack Obama, I heard, was doing this. Does that sort of tie into what we're talking about, less decisions?
It might be a part of it where you're just trying to minimise the complexity of life to concentrate on things that are important.
Yes.
But then how do you know what's important? Because the trouble with life is that you live it forwards, but you only see what was important by looking back in the past.
Man.
If only you could, live in the future and then say, "Oh, this is important, I'll do that." And yes, I will have a pistachio and lemon and chocolate ice creams.
How about the movie with Brad Pitt where he lived his life backwards? It's awesome. You've got to see it. It's Brad Pitt.
What's that movie called?
Yes, and
Benjamin.
That's it, Benjamin Button. Button.
That one.
He was born. So that's sort of, I think, has that message. If you could see your life backwards, you'd know all about what it was all about. All right, Dr. Karl is here. So let's. We won't take a break. We can keep going. Scientists have invented contact lenses that allow you to see in total darkness. That sounds cool.
Yeah. So the sun puts out about half of its energy as heat and half its energy as visible light. And there's a tiny amount as ultraviolet, which gives you cancer. But it's basically half heat and half visible light. And for heat, we haven't really got specialised sensors. So if you put your arm out in the sunlight, you'll go, "Oh, yeah, it's a bit warm," but you can't say, "Oh, and look, it's coming from that little globe that's about this size." Whereas with your eyes, we have evolved very sophisticated machinery that's very good at picking up the visible light that goes between blue and red. And so we're very good, and we can, the information from that is very dense. But the information we get from infrared is very weak. And scientists have invented contact lenses that have got little tellurium wires in them. And you can go into a room that's absolutely, totally dark, but it's still got infrared because infrared is just heat. It's still got things that are hot in there. And they've worked out a way to get the infrared light from 3 different bands, and then in the contact lenses, via the tellurium wires, turn that into 3 different visible light colours. So they're making up a false colour demonstration of what the outside world looks like. And if they can take this from the laboratory and actually get it functionally working to be useful, man, what a wonderful thing.
Yeah, that'd be absolutely amazing. If you and me look at the same thing, Dr. Karl, we look at a sunrise or whatever, do we see the same thing or we don't know? Are we both, how the brain sort of process what you're looking at as when you describe the eye? So you look at it, the light comes into your eye and whatever happens in your skull, and then I see something. How do I know you're looking at the same thing that I'm looking at? Or could it be different?
Well, we do know that the retina has colour sensing cells that are the same in practically all of us. Right. So we've all got cells that are sensitive to blue light with a maximum peak efficiency at around 440 nanometres, and then green light at around 525 nanometres, a nanometre being a billionth of a metre, and then red light at 575 nanometres. And we all have those three, and they're all the same except for about 2 to 3% of males who have got one that's sensitive to blue and then either one that's sensitive to green or one that's sensitive to blue, but not both.
Wow, okay. All right, no worries. And I think also if you keep listening, I'm going to pistachio cream I've written down here. Maybe someone can tell us where to get that locally too. So keep listening. We'll get some local pistachio cream for you and me somewhere. What do you reckon? The listeners will tell us, Dr. Karl, they know. They're the Brains Trust.
Well, I was reading, I looked up a few menus for it, and some of them involved in adding in white chocolate.
Oh, yeah.
Which I had no idea of.
Yeah. There's ice cream. Pistachio ice cream's always
I've never tried it. I've always been a straight lemon and chocolate sorbet type person.
Yeah, sorbet's good. Yep. Okay, well, you and me would get along fine. We'll go and have a coffee, get some ice cream, and we'll catch up one day. It's always a pleasure having you on, Dr. Karl. Thank you so much for being our science man, and we'll get you next week on the program. Thank you.
Peachy Keen, catch you then.